We're in Monte Carlo for the Rendez-Vous de Septembre for AM Best TV. I'm Richard Banks. And I'm joined now by Rob Newbold, President, Verisk Extreme Event Solutions. Rob, it's good to see you again. Welcome.
Morning. Thanks for having me.
Well, always delighted to have you. So, industry loss trends. It's a topic I think that people are always going to be talking about here in Monte Carlo. Should the industry recalibrate its expectations again?
So we've, since 2012, put out a report every year of global modeled insured loss using our suite of industry exposure data and our global model portfolio. This year we have the average annual loss from that suite at $152 billion. A few years now people have been talking about, is $100 billion the new normal? We first crested $100 billion back in 2022. So in our estimation, this means the industry should be capitalized for loss levels far exceeding that level. We've heard mention of $200 billion. Interestingly, if you look back at 2017 and calibrate that forward for inflation, the market's already sustained a $200 billion loss event. So, it's our estimation to continue to invest in these perils and give the market the tools they need to quantify cat risk.
So tell us a little bit about how insurers and reinsurers engage with catastrophe models.
Well, so models have been used across the life cycle from insurance and reinsurance risk selection all the way through portfolio risk management. The suite of tools available to the market has expanded quite significantly over the years, and I think most notably the level of granularity for use within these models has become much higher over time. So at the inception, models were mostly portfolio management tools on the reinsurance side, but now they can be used with confidence all the way up to initial insurance individual risk selection, or even by corporations to understand their external cat risk.
And how do the models themselves evolve? We're seeing climate change. Those expectations are surely going to change.
Yeah, climate change is certainly a specter out there for everyone to consider. Models since inception have dealt with climate variability, which is the internal within a season mix of climate going up and down, of course. Climate change is really setting a new baseline for risk, and we're certainly seeing it when you look at the so-called frequency perils, which is what we believe they should be called. No peril that can cause the level of loss, such as $40 billion from a wildfire, should ever be considered secondary. We've invested quite a bit in this over the years. And I think we can see a new baseline, certainly for wildfire in the U.S. We were fortunate to put out a new view for that model in June of 2024 that was quite useful in quantifying the risk for the tragic fires that occurred in January 25. We've updated our U.S. severe convective storm view of risk with a notable update there as well. So again, I think as the market is experiencing and beginning to plan better for these frequency perils, they can rely on tools such as cat models to help them understand the risk.
We're not just talking about catastrophes. We're talking about catastrophes. We're not talking about natural catastrophes necessarily. There are other perils that people are interested in having models for. And cyber is the obvious one. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so from a cyber perspective, Verisk made a pretty deliberate choice a few years ago to step back from the probabilistic cyber modeling industry. Our clients were telling us that the nat cat risk, for which, again, we have hundreds of billions of dollars of loss every year, was where they really wanted us to focus our investment. We're keeping our eye on the space, but we're confident and pleased with the choice we made to focus on nat cat.
So when you're dealing with the data that's required to build these models, inevitably one's mind turns to AI. Tell us a bit about the challenges, or probably in your case, the opportunities that AI presents.
Yeah, AI is an interesting challenge and opportunity. There's a little bit of a thinking that it's a solution in search of a problem. So we're being deliberate in how we approach integration of AI. Like everyone across the market, we're deploying it for automation of repetitive tasks. I think everyone has a client service chatbot, if you will, that can take large volumes of documentation and make it easier for the market to access those. We've been using machine learning and cat modeling since before it was cool, so call it old school AI and machine learning in building our cat models. We have a really important innovation we're doing now for a global climate circulation model. So for decades, cat models have been independent, but now we can model the global atmosphere in a global circulation model and use AI to downscale that to give local estimations of climate-driven cat risk anywhere in the world.
Rob, one final question,
Yeah.
if I may. Is there one issue today that's being overlooked that you think is going to be really important in the future?
We've hit on so many of these in our discussion today. I think discussing the real impact of climate change is something we as an industry need to be in front of. A lot of talk of insurance affordability and availability. We have a privileged role as an independent arbiter of risk to be able to provide a truly independent assessment of cat risk to anybody in the value chain. And being part of that conversation and bringing solutions to the market to close that global protection gap is something I think we need to continue to talk about as a market.
Robert, it's always a great pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed for your time.
Thanks for having me.
For AM Best TV, I'm Richard Banks.